guarantee the security of Israel, the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. And if he does not want the two-state solution, can you ask the Israeli officials, what is their end game? Other than just wars and wars and wars. I'm telling you, all of us in the Arab world here, we want a peace in which Israel lives in peace and security, accepted, normalized with all Arab countries.
If he's right that the Arab countries around Israel do want stability, do want peace, all they're asking for is a Palestinian state, why would Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not take that?
But just this last week, the United Nations General Assembly votes to remove the Jews from the occupied territories, including the city of Jerusalem. They give them 1 year to move. And it wasn't even a close vote. There was 145 nations that voted for it. There were 43, including the U.S., which decided just not to vote. And I just thought, what's really going on?
Israel says a response is coming. But Iran warns it's ready to attack again if provoked.
The missile attack comes as Iran-backed Hezbollah launched more than 100 rockets into Israel today, while the Israelis continued to target the Lebanese capital of Beirut with airstrikes. We're also following that other security incident out of Tel Aviv yesterday. 7 people killed in a shooting there, and the police say that these attackers came from the West Bank. Clearly, many fronts at the same time, quite active for the Israelis.
It's really a fulfillment of what the prophet Zechariah and others said when he wrote, he says, on that day when all the nations are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations, and all who try to move it will injure themselves.
Iran, you said, and I thought that was
Strong's H5414. Nathan. Nathan.
was interesting, Marie, rather, that they're embarrassed right now. The only person that they managed to kill with all that targeting was a Palestinian.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Multiple locations in Israel that were hit, among them 2 Israeli air bases, Nevatim and at Tel Nof. Now, these were the images at Nevatim. Visually dramatic, of course, but so far there's no evidence of any actual damage at the airbase itself. That's a major propaganda victory for Iran, but in actuality, the damage inflicted is extremely limited.
Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, released a statement saying, based on legitimate rights with the aim of peace and security for Iran and the region, a decisive response was given to the aggressions of the Zionist regime.
Amazingly, mind-bogglings are rising again in people supporting terrorist organizations of the most brutal and primitive kind. People who practice a kind of savage 7th century Islam with Hamas and Fatah and Hezbollah. But it's so unreasonable when you think about it. It's so unreasonable that a people who are dwelling safely and quietly suddenly are invaded by people who not only want to kill them, but put their babies in ovens, decapitate their toddlers, rape and pillage and cut open women, and then drag a bunch of them off in captivity, which they hold and will not release. And we find people around the world saying, they're the victims. They're the freedom fighters.
Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen have repeatedly attacked Israel with drones and ballistic missiles in solidarity with the people of Gaza. The spontaneous turnout in Yemen, Iran, Lebanon, Iraq and Palestine may have raised morale in the face of a fearsome enemy. But Israel's aggression continues with the support of a world superpower, and the celebrations are mixed with feelings of uncertainty.
When a former president declared the Arab Springs upon people, what followed was ISIS and Gaza and Hamas and warfare and murder. So that we talk about the Israelis now killing Arabs, but you have to understand, over 1 million Arabs have been killed by other Arabs because they belong to a different group or different political orientation, or because they are Shia instead of Sunni or Sunni instead of Shia. And you realize that what's central to them, the only thing that unifies them, is the very thing that guarantees their destruction.
So this puny regime, it is not a state, it is a colony. It is a racist, ethno-supremacist colony which the people call themselves the chosen people. Unlike you, we do not believe in chosen people. And the Palestinian people on that land who've been displaced and pushed into Gaza and who've been slaughtered regularly over 76 years, we will not stand for that. We struck their military targets because unlike you, we actually care about human rights, not you. The regime must go and all people must be treated equally. Right. And if the only thing, there's no doubt that Israel will lose, but the only variable here is the United States. If the United States gets involved, have no doubt, the U.S. will be swept out of Iraq by the Iraqi resistance. And all all its assets in the Persian Gulf will be destroyed.
Professor?
All those regimes
All right,
that U.S. bases will be destroyed, and the oil and gas markets will cause a situation where the global economy will collapse and millions of people will be on the move.
God says, I will bring a curse on you if you curse my chosen people.
Most dramatically, of course, Israel could target one of Iran's many nuclear facilities. Benjamin Netanyahu has long seen Iran's nuclear program and the possibility of its weaponization as an existential threat to Israel, and he could take this moment to strike. So Israel might choose to calibrate its response and show that it's done so and go no further up this escalatory spiral. But it doesn't seem to be in a mood to do that. And until we know, the Middle East remains on the brink of a much bigger crisis. It's up to Tel Aviv now.
And now we see more concern about what's unfolding in the Middle East. Is President Trump right? Are we on the verge, without strong American leadership, of a catastrophe in the Middle East?
Well, Laura, thanks for having me on. The world is on fire.
We need to open up dialogue and strengthen dialogue and cooperation between states, enabling us to strengthen international peace and security. In this regard, we categorically reject all crimes perpetrated by Israel against the kindred Palestinian people, enabling the Palestinian people to establish an independent state with pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital.
And yet Mark Twain back in 1899 wrote an essay called Concerning the Jews, and I'll just read a few excerpts from it. But he wrote then, he said, properly the Jew ought hardly to be heard of. He said the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Persians, they rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, and passed away. The Greeks and the Romans followed and made a vast noise, and they are gone. And then he finally said, all things are mortal, but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. And you see, as I've noted so many times in previous teachings, that after 2,000 years, to know that Israel is once again a nation occupying the same spatial territory that their forefathers owned, they're speaking the same language as their forefathers.
very
forefathers. Well, all of those things and more make it an absolute historical anomaly. We have no other example throughout human history of anything like this happening.
Well, tonight, new violence in the Middle East. A massive explosion rocked Beirut a short time ago. At this moment, it is not clear what the target was. But even before this blast, Lebanon's government said Israeli airstrikes had killed 46 people just today.
To give a sense of the difference, some in Israel are now arguing they have a great opportunity to use fighter jets and hit the nuclear facilities that Iran has. Also important to note overnight, another 7 Israeli soldiers who made the trip over the border to take out those Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon have been killed. Guys?
We have the capabilities to reach any point in the Middle East, said the head of the armed forces. Our enemies, who have not understood this yet, will soon understand.
It is.
Colony